On a quiet night in 1973, a strange sound echoed from beneath a small house, and what police found under the floorboards would terrify an entire town. No one in the neighborhood could have imagined that a secret was literally hiding beneath their feet, a secret that had been silently waiting in the dark for weeks. And at the center of this mystery was a man named Mr. Lane. Mr. Lane was known as a quiet, hard-working man. He lived in a small, modest house on a peaceful street. Neighbors described him as polite but private. He kept mostly to himself. Every morning he followed the same routine. He would leave his house early for work. He would greet a few neighbors with a small wave. Then he would disappear down the street. Nobody knew much about his personal life, but everyone agreed he was harmless. He was a man who caused no trouble, and in a quiet neighborhood, that was all that mattered. However, something about Mr. Lane's life was not what it seemed. Something dark was brewing behind the walls of his home, a dark secret that would soon be discovered, and when it was, it would shock everyone. The story began weeks before his disappearance. Neighbors started noticing small changes. Mr. Lane wasn't seen as often. His house looked quieter than usual. His car remained parked for days. Some people thought he was sick. Others thought he was traveling. But no one knew the truth, because the truth was already inside the house, hidden where no one would expect. Days turned into weeks. Mail began to pile up at the door. The grass in his yard grew longer. Still, nobody called the police. Back then, people did not worry so quickly. Until one night changed everything. A neighbor heard a strange sound. It was a loud thud from inside Mr. Lane's house, followed by a dragging noise. The neighbor felt uneasy, but they assumed it was nothing. Days later, a strong smell began coming from the house. At first, it was faint. Then, it became impossible to ignore. Neighbors started complaining. Some thought a dead animal was under the house. Others feared something worse. Finally, someone called the police. Officers arrived on a quiet afternoon. The street watched in silence. Police knocked on the door. There was no answer. They knocked again. Still nothing. So they made the decision to enter. The house was dark. The air inside was heavy. The smell was stronger than expected. Officers moved slowly through each room. Everything looked normal at first. Nothing seemed broken. Nothing seemed stolen, but something felt wrong. One officer noticed scratch marks on the floor. They led toward the living room, then suddenly stopped, right in the center of the room. The officers looked down. The wooden floorboards looked slightly different. One board was loose. The officer kneeled down. He pried the board up. What they saw next made them freeze. Beneath the floorboards was a horrifying sight. A body had been hidden under the house. It was Mr. Lane. He had been dead for days, maybe even weeks. The entire neighborhood was shocked. Who would do this to a quiet man like him? And how did no one hear a thing? Police quickly sealed off the house. The investigation began immediately. Detectives searched every room. They looked for any clues. Fingerprints were collected. Photos were taken. Every detail mattered. The body showed signs of a struggle. Mr. Lane had fought back, which meant he knew his killer. There were no signs of forced entry. This was a big clue. The killer was likely someone he trusted, someone he let inside. Detectives started asking questions. They interviewed neighbors, they interviewed friends, they interviewed coworkers, but nobody knew anything, or so it seemed. One neighbor remembered something strange. They had seen a man visit Mr. Lane late at night. The visits were frequent, but no one knew who he was. Police followed this lead. They checked Mr. Lane's phone records. One name appeared over and over, a man named David Carter. David was a former business partner, but their partnership had ended badly. Money was involved, a lot of money. Detectives decided to find him. David Carter was brought in for questioning. At first, he acted calm. He claimed he had nothing to do with it. He claimed he had not seen Mr. Lane for months, but the phone records said otherwise. So did a neighbor. The story was falling apart.
Detectives pressed harder. David started sweating. His voice started shaking. Then another shocking clue appeared. Police found his fingerprints inside the house. Not just anywhere, they were on the floorboards, right where the body was hidden. The room became silent.
David had no explanation. The evidence was clear, but there was still one question. Why would he kill Mr. Lane? The answer was greed. Detectives discovered a secret deal. Mr. Lane had owed David money, thousands of dollars, and the argument between them had grown intense. Witnesses heard them shouting days before the murder. The final meeting happened at night, inside Mr. Lane's house. The two men fought. The argument turned violent, and in a moment of rage, David attacked him. Mr. Lane collapsed. Panic filled the room. David did not call for help. Instead, he made a terrible decision. He decided to hide the body. He pulled up the floorboards. He dragged Mr. Lane across the floor. Then he buried him beneath the house. He thought no one would ever find him. He thought the secret would stay hidden. But secrets like that never stay buried. The smell gave it away, and so did his mistakes. David was charged with murder. The trial shocked the community. People could not believe it. Two men who once worked together, destroyed by money and anger. The courtroom was silent as evidence was presented. Photos of the floorboards, fingerprint reports, witness testimonies, every piece pointed to one man, David Carter. The jury deliberated for hours. Then they returned with a verdict: guilty. David was sentenced to life in prison. The case was closed. But the story did not end there. The house on that street remained empty for years. No one wanted to live there. People said the place felt haunted. Some claimed they heard sounds at night. Others said the floorboards creaked by themselves. Whether true or not, the memory of the crime never left the town. Mr. Lane was finally laid to rest, but his story became a warning about trust, a warning about greed, and a warning about the dark secrets people can hide, even under their own floorboards. Years later, people still talked about the case. New residents heard the story. Some did not believe it until they saw the house themselves, old, quiet, and filled with history. The kind of history that never fully disappears, the kind that stays in the walls and in the floors, waiting to be remembered. Because sometimes the scariest secrets are the ones hiding right beneath us, just like they were in 1973, under the floorboards of Mr. Lane's house. A secret that shocked a town and changed lives forever. A reminder that evil can hide anywhere, even in the most ordinary places, even in a quiet home, even between friends. And sometimes the truth is literally buried, waiting for someone to lift the floorboards and discover what was meant to stay hidden. This case reminds us how quickly life can change. One argument, one moment of anger, one terrible decision, and everything is lost. A life taken, a friendship destroyed, a town left in fear, and a story that still haunts people today. The mystery of Mr. Lane may be solved, but the shadow of that night remains. If this story shocked you, make sure you like this video. Comment below what you think about this case. Share this story with friends who love true crime, and let us know what case we should cover next. Your support helps this channel grow, so don't forget to subscribe. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new true crime story. More dark mysteries are coming soon, and some of them are even more terrifying.